Hi there and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make these super cute character cakes using a star tip. It's really simple. You just go online and find a picture of the character you want to make and print it out on cardstock. You may have to tape two pieces together to get a big enough picture for your cake. Then you're going to take some scissors and cut out around your character. Then you're going to take a 9x13 cake and place your stencil of your character on top. Slowly outline with a toothpick the outside of your character. Another option is to buy pans for character cakes that are already made into the shape of your character or design that you want, and you can bake your cake in one of those, and this would save you this step. Now you're going to take a knife and slowly cut out along your outline, being careful not to rip any of the cake that is on the inside. I like to take these off in little pieces so the cake stays intact. Any of the details just cut in close to the edge, kind of go from both angles, and you're going to do this all the way around your cake until you have your outline. Once your cake is all cut out, you're going to want to put a crumb coat of frosting, just a thin layer, on top of your cake. Be very careful because the edges are pretty fragile around all those little cuts. So put a layer on the top first, pushing outwards, and then you'll slowly start adding to the sides. This part can be a little bit difficult because the crumbs like to come off. So I like to use a pretty thick layer of frosting and go back and forth until it attaches. And you're going to do this all the way around the cake until you have smooth edges. And then you're going to refrigerate or freeze the cake so that this layer of frosting can harden. Once you're all done with your crumb coat layer, be sure to wipe off the edges of your board around the cake just to leave it a nice clean surface. While your frosting is setting up on the cake, we're going to now make all our different colors that we need for our cake. So no matter what character you're doing, just figure out what colors you're going to need. Divide up your frosting and then use some food color dye to make the different color of frosting you're going to need. So for the Princess Peach cake, I'm going to need pink for her dress, yellow for her hair, and I want a bright yellow, so I added quite a bit of dye. And then we're going to need some peach, so we're going to put yellow and red together until we get the color we like. Again, you can just keep adding red or yellow to lighten or darken depending on the color you want. And then we need just a little bit of blue for the gems and her earrings. Any other slightly darker colors, I'll just be adding a little bit of dye to those as I go along. So now that our crumb coat's all set up, I'm going to start by cutting up our picture, getting our toothpick, and just like the outline, we're going to be outlining the different shapes and designs that are on our character. So for Princess Peach, we have a crown, so we outlined that. Now I'm going to cut out her hair, and then we'll outline that. And then I'm going to just continue to cut out each little piece of my character. Here I'm cutting out her ear and earrings, and then I'm laying the stencil back down and outlining those shapes. This is the easiest way to get everything in its place and outline which colors are going to go where. So I usually just divide by large elements first, lay those down and do the outline I need, and then I will cut out the smaller elements and outline those. For the smaller elements, I will just hold up the picture of that element and draw in the smaller parts of it. It's just easier than cutting out every tiny little spot. Then I'll go back to the rest of the design and cut out the next color, which here is the little pink layer of her dress and the bottom cuffs of her gloves. Okay, once our character is completely outlined, all the details, we are going to start with our star tip number 18. Is what I prefer to use. And we're going to start with our first color. I like to start from the center and work my way out so holding up my arm doesn't get so tiring. And here I'm starting with Peach and her face. So I will fill in all that section that is outlined for her skin color. Next, we're doing her hair. So I have a bag with yellow frosting. Same tip, I use the same tip, I just use the removable attachments so that I can just clean it out in between each color and attach it to my next reusable bag for piping. And this I like to do in different sections, kind of go with the flow that you want the eye to look towards, the direction all the star prints are going. Next we have the pink of her dress. I'm doing the different sections one at a time, just so it kind of divides up the different parts of the dress. I've got both her sleeves and the body part. And when you're doing other elements that you want a slightly different color, like I did here, you can add a tiny bit of a darker tiny bit more dye to your frosting so that it gets a little bit darker for the other elements. Now I'm doing blue, which she needs for her gems, her earrings, and her eyes. And I went back and did her pink lips. And then for this deeper orangey gold color, I just added more dye, food coloring dye, to the peach icing to get this color. I add a little bit more for her nose, for the peach. Don't forget her nose. And then I am starting on white. White is what I needed the most of because it's going to be used for her eyes, her gloves, and the entire outside of the base of the cake. You can always go in with a toothpick and fix any little stars that are uneven or overlapping, and you can use the toothpick to fix those. Finally, you're just going to take that same star tip and do tips, all little stars all around the sides of your cake. Again, you could do different colors on the sides if you really wanted to, but I love how this really does a nice outline around your character and gives it a nice defined edge because all the edges are white. Once I was done with the sides, I got some black frosting. I just bought the kind that's in the tube because I didn't have black dye. So I just bought this at the store at Walmart. You can use this black dye to outline your character's eyes or any other part of your character that you want to have a nice outline for. And the unfortunate thing about these pre-bought, their tips aren't very nice, so I ended up having to just do a thicker outline and then go back with a toothpick to kind of define her eyelashes and the eyeliner that's around her eye to make it more defined. I also added little black circles to her eyes, the center of her eyes, and then here I am fixing just all the little black parts to make them more even and around her eye. Finally, I'm just putting a little blob of white frosting on the tip of a toothpick and adding it to her eyes, the inner part of her eyes. This really gives her that shimmery look in the eye. And then with a toothpick, I put a little bit of black frosting across her mouth. Oh my goodness, you guys, my daughter loved this cake. She wanted a Princess Peach cake so bad. And it did take several hours to do this cake and decorate this cake, but she absolutely loved it. And I think it turned out pretty well. On the cake board, you can add wording if you'd like. Here's my little 6-year-old loving her cake. You can also make different characters for different birthdays, and your kids are going to love them.